Okay.
We're back for round 2 with Speed Desir and his wife. I think we were in the part where you're just about to go to work for Jerry Mousen and things like that in your life. And you had just got married, I believe, on the last episode. But anyways, you can just kind of take it off from there.
We actually got married in 1975, and so we were married like 2 or 3 years before we came back to Montana.
Okay.
But we was still running hounds in Idaho, elk hunting in Idaho, and stuff like that when we came to Montana. And I went to work I was working for Louisiana Pacific then, and I come over here to Montana, and they want me to be a boss, the superintendent. And it was a great deal because there's a few houndmen around here, but not hardly nothing compared to Idaho. And they all seem to want to hunt lions. And heck, I'd just soon run bobcats at that time. They were worth $300-400 a piece. And I made more money in the weekends than I would be during working time, And so I was running my dog still a lot. And
What was the hourly rate back then at a mill?
at a mill, I can't remember. I think it was like maybe $9 an hour or something like that.
And you were...
I was salary, so
Yeah,
I was
okay.
working for. I don't even remember what I made a month, but anyway, I was salary and stuff like that. But it was down there. I mean, you could buy a brand new pickup truck for $6,000-7,000 4-wheel drive, and everything else, and you could have a job at the mill and buy one. Now they got nowadays pickup trucks start at $50,000 4-wheel drive and go on up, and people are. I remember I worked on the Dvorak Reservoir in the '60s, and I was making almost $4 an hour. And I bought a brand new GMC 4-wheel drive pickup from Robidoux Motors in 1970 model, and that cost me $2,700. And I rented for $50 a month. My biggest light bill was $10. But in them days, that was affordable.
Yeah.
But now, at the same, with a raised weight, if you're a carpenter in this valley, you might make $20-25 an hour. And that is a raise of about, I don't know, 5-6 times. But the pickup has went from $2,700 to up in the 50s to $100,000. So an average working stiff now, he can't buy a new truck,
No, and you're hound hunting, you're wearing trucks out.
Oh, yeah.
Tailgates don't work after a couple years.
Yeah, even them days was tough. I remember I'd go buy used tires and rent them for about 2 months and have a flat tire and go down and buy 4 more of them, and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's something that no one talks about. Tires sucked back then. I've talked to so many guys, and that if you let them go too flat, and they would go to a square edge on them if you let them set too long.
Yeah. They seem to be rough on tires, but heck, I remember I hunted so much that I would have to hawk 2 or 3 of my rifles to have gas to go hunting, and gas is only 27 cents a gallon. And I'd run my dogs all the time, and then I'd get my guns, go back to work, and get my guns back out of hawk. But that was just a lot of that. I wasn't married, and so I didn't make just me. So anyway, to get back where I was, but in 1970, 74, 73, something like that, I met Sharon, and me and her went out on a date, bear hunting, and she killed a bear. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was done then. It was over, and I remember she killed this bear, and I climbed this tree because it hung up in the tree, and the bear come out and almost took me out of the tree, and I got down there and put it on my back and run up the hill. It wasn't a monster bear, but I run up this hill to the truck and almost killed myself climbing the hill with this bear and to impress this young lady, and
It worked.
It worked.
Meanwhile, you were doing most of the impressing, Sharon, I think, with you shooting the bear out of the tree.
Yeah, he hit it right between the ear in the eye, and
Graveyard dead.
Graveyard dead.
fall right out of
Yeah,
there.
she's killed 5 bears with the dogs. Killed every one of them with my 30-30, and one shot between the eye and the ear. So she's so that was a
Take
done
care of
deal.
that.
There was no way I was getting out of that thing, and so we got married, and I still working for Louisiana Pacific. And they asked me, as getting kind of crowded at home, a lot more houndmen, a lot more hunters, a lot more people. And this up here at that time looked very inviting because the numbers were way down, and a lot of animals, very few people, 2 or 3 houndmen. There was like Wayne and Glenn, and there was like 4 or 5, and they all hunted together. And so I was hunting on my own, and I had a young guy who hunted with me, and Kelvin Fitchett, and we had a lot of fun together. But them guys, they were chasing lions, and we were chasing bobcats, and it was a good time. And we moved to Montana, and then it went along there about what I think a couple years or so like that, and then I met a guy. I'm gonna lead into this now. I met this old boy. We would shut down the stud mill. It was a stud mill, and we shut down the stud mill in the wintertime, and then we would have watch duty. The supervisors would have watch duty, and me and this other guy had graveyard shift, which I liked, and was 4 on, 4 off. So I really liked it because we shut down in the winter, and then I could cat hunt for 4 days straight, and then turn around and come back, and I could pull my pickup into the shop with a big heater in it and everything, get it all cleaned up and everything else, and then
Get
as
the
soon as
ice
I
out
got
of
done
it.
with 4 days of guard duty, I turned around and go right back to running my dog. So it was a great time. But I met this old boy, Steve Vincent, very good friend of mine. He's with the Lord now. You said, well, why did I bring that up? Because I am a Christian now. So I wanted to bring that up. But anyway, he asked me to shoot muzzleloaders. And I never shot a muzzleloader, and he was a buckskinner. And so we went out and started shooting muzzleloaders, and I'll never forget that. We'd shoot at these squirrels in the tree, and you never knew if you hit them. You'd have to ask the other guy if you hit him because the smoke would come up in your face, and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed that. And then he asked me if we would wanted to go to a Sunday Bible study group that gathered and had a potluck, and they said there were a lot of hunters and guys, and I thought, well, this will be cool because I know Sharon wanted to go because she had 2 brothers that were
Pastors.
and she Baptist pastors to boot, and then she had so anyway, she was a Christian, and she should have never married this heathen, but she did, and so anyway So I thought, yeah, we'll go because I wanted Sharon will enjoy this, and we went, and I really enjoyed it. We'd go out there and we'd meet, and they'd have a Bible study group from M.R. DeHaan, which started the Daily Bread, and they would do this lesson thing. We'd sing a couple of them Christian songs, and then we'd have a good feed, food, and then the guys would go out and shoot pellet guns and tell hunting stories, and we'd go and look at Jerry's always trapping stuff and his coyotes and his fox because he raised coyotes and fox and stuff, and it was really good, and then as this progressed, it come back to wintertime, and I was on guard duty, and so when I was doing that, I was doing a lot of reading. And I was reading the Bible, and I was reading M.R. DeHaan's books, which, again, this is the guy that started the Daily Bread. And he made 27 books, and I was reading them and going to this Bible study and
Getting fed.
Yep.
getting fed. Yeah, that's for sure. And then, so the next spring, we was back running the planer, and I was a drying superintendent, but I was also charged a night shift, more or less. And we was running the planer and stuff like that, and checking the kill guy and all that stuff. And so anyway, I was getting really convicted, and I remember it was in 1980. I think it was in the spring then, about now May, something like that. I think it was May. and we lived up a little trout creek back in the draw there, and the creek come down behind the house and was a pond at our place and it flowed out of that. I got home that night. I just couldn't stay still. I just read that book, Simon Peter, Sinner Saint, by M.R. DeHaan, and I got really convicted. And I remember I walked over a moonlit night, and I walked over the creek, and I'll probably get tears on this one. But anyway, I walked over the creek, and I fell down on my knees, and I started bawling. And I knew I needed Jesus, and this is what it is. I knew I was a sinner, and I knew that there were things in my life I really didn't want to lose. And and my wife and everything else like that, and I knew that the old guy that I was didn't deserve any of that, And so anyway, I accepted Christ that night, and that was 46 years ago, and I've never turned back, and it was a great time in my life. A big change. So anyway, I run in and woke Sharon up, and of course she cried and bawled, and then I called my sisters up because they're both saved, and they started crying. It was a great time. And so anyway, after a while, we started, we was going to this fellowship, but they was kind of anti-organized religion, which you hear this now and then. But as I was studying more, and I remember reading Rice's book on baptism, and he was a Baptist preacher too, and not that I'm Baptist. I'm Baptistic maybe, but I'm not Baptist. People say, "What denomination are you?" I'm a born-again Christian. I'm a child of God. I don't want to put a label on myself, And for a lot of years, we went to the Cabin Bible Church, was actually a non-denominational church, and that makes me very, very comfortable. Even though I'm going to a Baptist church now, it is still pretty much a non-denominational church, and so I like. So anyway, I was reading by M.R. Rice, and he talked about the reason for baptism, and I read it, and God was pulling up my heart again. You submit the Spirit of God, and you read the Word, and God will take care of that for you. It says in the Scriptures, submit to God and resist the devil. It starts off by submitting to God. You submit to God, and then you can resist the devil. You can't resist the devil on your own, only with the power of the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit of God. So anyway, I said, I'm going to get baptized. I said, because it is an act of faith to show that I have accepted Christ, and I want to move forward and follow Him. That's what it's about. It don't save you if you're already saved, but it's just that you're announcing.
The sanctification process is starting on yourself.
Yes, amen.
It's an act of obedience.
Yeah, act of obedience. Yes. So anyway, I went down and seen a Baptist preacher, which was down in Heron, because my mother and father-in-law went to a church down there, and his name was Bud Ling, and I went down. He was quite a big old. He was a neat guy, a big old, joyful guy, and boy, when he talked, he got really loud and stuff like that. And I told him, and he says, "Well, you tell me about yourself first." So I did. And he says, so why do you think you need to be baptized? And I told him I accepted Christ. And what do you believe? I mean, he checked me all out. Mm-hmm. And so I says, "Well, will you do that?" And he says, "I'll baptize you." So we got it set up where her mom and dad was going to be there, and a bunch of other people. And I called my sisters, and they said, we never got baptized. So all of a sudden my sister, anyway, to make this story short, 14 people got baptized that day. And we went out down on the river down there, and we all got down there, and it was a really chilly, cold day, and the water seemed to be icy cold, but we got baptized. That was a great
raining.
time.
On us, so we didn't even know it was raining.
So it was beautiful. But he had this big RV, motorhome, so he could run up into that and change our clothes, and afterwards and stuff. So that was nice. But yeah, it was a good time. So I got there, and then as they went on a little further, we lost our son, Sean. He was 17 years old. He shot himself. He got suicidal. and over his girlfriend broke up with him, and I'd got him a truck, and some guy had come up and smashed his truck all up, and he got all emotional about it, I guess, and doing stuff stupid like we all do when we're young. And I found him.
Oh, man.
And that was a very hard day because we was going to go bear hunting in the morning. He wanted to borrow my truck. And I said, go ahead, take my truck. So he went to a party or something. You know how that goes. He's a teenager. He's 17 years old. And so when I found my truck, there he was. And I'll never forget that day. That tore the heart right out of me at that moment. And I fell down on my knees, and I was very weak at that moment. I cried to God, why does this happen to me, and what type of thing. And then I remember verses coming back, all things work for the good and that love him. I think, well, how's this working good for me, you know? Of course, you're kind of slinging that around.
Yeah.
But Sean made a choice, and we all make choices. I loved him, you know, and he knew I did. And he left me a note, which is not good either, but still, it was a hard day. But anyway, this Pastor Jim Holder, which then was the pastor down at the Heron Baptist Church. Here we are Baptist again. It sounds like I'm really Baptistic here, but he come down there, and he come up and he hugged me and he prayed with me and cried with me and I thought, you know something? And I felt like the Spirit of God was telling me, you need to get into the local church and get involved in it, because what you're doing, you got this little group, but you're not growing. And you're supposed to be going out and bringing other people to Christ and let the world see what you are. And so I decided, well, I'm going to start going to this church. And so by doing so, a bunch of us started going to that church. And even Jerry Molson was actually kind of teaching them lessons. And he started going to Trout Creek Church. So it kind of split up, but we all started going to churches in our own way. And so that was a good deal. So anyway, I was still working at Louisiana Pacific. I still was a boss there, but they went on strike. And about 65-70% of the employees, state wouldn't go out. You know, they went back to work. In other words, they went through the picket line. You know, the old hardcore union guys, they but everybody's related. So this is really ugly. You know, this is a really small town, and it was really ugly. You know, and so then a lot of people from other people. They come in too, and they're related to him. It was. You
came in and married one of their women, so you probably weren't liked very much neither.
Yeah, no.
They were all scared of him.
Yeah, I figure.
So anyway, I turned around and I was a boss, and we never lost a minute in production. And we're still running. We had some attacks, you know, and stuff like that. But I was thinking about this, you know, and this union thing and everything, and here I'm a new Christian and everything, and I just got over losing our son, you know, and stuff like this, and they're talking about, well, they'll probably take this mill out, you know, and it just goes on and on and on. So I was going out the gate, and this guy come up and spit on my pickup, and I wasn't stay very long, and I come out the door of the pickup, and 2 or 3 of the guys, older guys, jumped up and grabbed me. No, Speedy, he doesn't understand, because I was sour, you see. I wasn't a union guy, and so you know, I wasn't a scab. I was a union. I wasn't a union guy. So anyway, I went and got back in the pickup, and I drove him down, and I went and told Sharon, "What do you think?" I says, "I don't know if I can handle this much longer. I think I'll have to quit." So I went back and I said, as a Christian, I'm afraid I'm just going to blow it, you know. And so I don't want to be involved in this. This is a mess. And so I went to the mill the next day and went and told the plant manager I'm quitting. He said, "You can't quit." And I said, "Whoa, wait a minute, you know." I had 6 weeks paid vacation. I said, "I'm going on vacation." "Well, how long?" I said, 6 weeks. And at the end of 6 weeks, I'm quitting. So they did pay me for 6 weeks paid vacation. And I left, and then I went and started doing them little log jobs, logging and moving on a little bit. So then working
something.
Huh?
Always finding something. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Skilled.
cutting trees and stuff like that, and doing all that stuff, and so then building a little bit too and stuff, and then me and Jerry was talking. Jerry was going to take the outfitters test. Yeah, well, I guess we already did that, but we both had these outfitters thing, and so we're going to start doing hunts together. And so we decided that one of us would be the head guide, and the other one would be the outfitter. Well, I looked at Jerry and I thought about that for a minute, and I thought maybe I better be the head guide. So I know that's what he wanted anyway. So you be the outfitter, And I became the head guide, and we're supposed to be partners in this and stuff, but that's not important.
Jerry Mousen is how I got started in this whole entire thing also. So knowing that, man, how did you would have been a much better leader. Did you know that going into it, like I can lead the guides and I can kind of lead from behind and just let him be the
I knew. I don't really know if I was a better leader, but I knew I was a lot better hunter, and I knew the country. I run my dogs all the time. Jerry was a really good trapper, but yeah, well, he was a real good trapper, and caller, and stuff like that, But when it come to elk hunting and dog hunting and mule deer hunting and stuff like that, well, it was better that I would be the head guy, and so that's what that was. And so, and it was good. I mean, me and him, when it was just me and him around each other, we got along great, And we'd go in the Bob Marshall every year, and we'd spend a week, 10 days, and I'd take care of the horses and the mules. He'd cook. Jerry loved cooking. And I'd go in there and take care of the horses and mules, and we put the camp up together whichever way, and we'd have a good time. There was a lot less of them stories that everybody listened to. He knew I wouldn't listen to them, so it didn't make much difference. But but it just, yeah, we always had a good time, and we spent a lot of time talking about the Lord, and that's where our bond was. Really, it wasn't in hunting. Or he tried hound hunting, and that didn't work out too good for him, and stuff like this. And I did train a dog for him, but even when he tried to work the dog was used to me, I guess, and he wouldn't listen to Jerry, and so I had to be around to keep the dog doing what he's doing right and stuff like that. So it was, but like I say, we were good friends, and I miss him a lot. He's interesting. He knew how to dress the place. He'd have the camouflage for the camouflage day, and he'd have the cowboy boots and the big hat. And one thing he insisted on that his guides wore the cowboy hat during guide schools or something like that. But when we guided, we didn't wear that stuff. But
Oh my goodness, that was my biggest complaint when I worked for him. And then when we ate supper, didn't matter what. When you got back, you had to go put a button-up shirt on. And,
Really?
Yeah, and the hat. And I would take my hat as soon as I got out of sight of Jerry, and I'd shove that thing in my backpack. So it looked like a Beverly Hillbillies hat from being in my backpack all day. But yeah, he was definitely a showman. And looking back on it, like, to get all the guides to pay attention, he was strict about it, like on you. But I know when you weren't too much around whenever I was guiding for him, but he was very rough to work for.
Oh yeah,
very hard to work for.
Yeah, I know he was. He didn't play that game with me, but he there was another guy called Louis Montana, and Louis he's shorter than me and Jerry, and he was just almost like a rebuild, And we're going in the back country, and I'm going in there, and I got an archery hunter, and Louis is gonna come in and take care of this camp in back there, and thing, and so we get there, and he comes up walking up, and this is an archery hunt, and he comes walking up, and he's got this cowboy hat on and all these screws and fancy boots and a vest. And I said, "What do you got that on for?" "Oh, yeah, well, we're taking the horses in." I goes, "Oh, okay." So we ride the horses all the way in there. We get there, we unload everything, and get him around, and he takes the horses back out. And then when he comes back in, he puts his camouflage on. And I thought, "Are you kidding me?" No, really,
You can't ride horses without your get-up on.
I guess.
I could. I did really good with it. But anyway, yeah, he was into that. But,
So how old were you guys when you guys are starting this?
well, let me think here. When we started this thing, it was probably like I was 35. Okay. Jerry was older than I was. So, and, I've been hunting hounds.
Prime of your life.
Yeah.
And Montana, it was new to get like an outfitter license.
Yeah, I passed the test. We all went to. I remember Wayne Hill was in there, and I'm not bad mouthing Wayne, but he couldn't read, and so they went in there, and I was doing my test, and they was giving him the test verbally, in the other room, and I could hear a little bit of it. And I thought, maybe that'd be nice. I'd come in and do this instead of me having to read it, But anyway, but we all passed. Me and Glenn Smith was an outfitter, and Wayne still is an outfitter. There was like 5 of us went up there and took the outfitter's test. And then Jerry, of course, I'd worked with horses and mules and stuff like that. And so Jerry wanted to go to Smoke Elser's packing school. So then we went to that. He wanted me to go, so I went, and it was good. It was a good school. I really liked Smoke Elser, and it was real, very, very interesting school. And so we went to that. It was a lot of fun.
And this is the era of wall tents and backcountry hunting when that was like, you didn't go west if you didn't go on a horse hunt into the backcountry with a wall tent. That was like what it was.
Yeah, and that's why we taught it in guide school too. It was because there still are some of them going on in some places, But at that time, when we first started guide school, that was still very prominent. And when you send students out, as you know, you send like that. A lot of them are going to backcountry horse camps, and so that was interesting. And then camp cooking and all that kind of other stuff. It's all been beneficial for a guy to have it. As even Billy Moles, even and his sheep hunts and stuff, he had to have some of them skills to be able to take us. He had to guide all day and feed them guys, and he didn't have to be a monster cook, but he still had to do it.
So you and Jerry are into this, developing ways to make money in the outfitting. You start a guide school, you're line out, and you're pretty much running all the mainstreams to outfitting that as of today. Back then, and the guide schools were a big thing then.
Yeah.
Big thing. How many students would you run through a year, you think?
I would say we usually did, I'm trying to remember, we usually did at least 4 classes.
Yeah.
And so we were doing anywhere from 16, we try to have at least 16 students, and so we pretty much that. We always being able to handle half of them. I could handle half, and Nick could handle half, unless it was like shoeing or doing this kind of stuff, then we'd all be there,
So we got to talk about Nick. You brought his name up. So this guy was huge in my life, and yeah, when did Nick come in? Nick Hardy, when did he come into this story?
Well, we had a couple other packers, and they didn't last very long. But when Nick came there, he showed up with that old horse of his. And
Buckskin?
Yeah, and showed up with that old horse of his and stuff. But I always liked Nick, and he is a character. I mean, he wouldn't get off that horse for nothing.
Dude, he watched every John Wayne movie and took him to heart.
Oh, yeah. Me and him and a client went back into, we went up to Grace Creek and took the trail going back in towards Cabin Lake country and stuff. And so Nick was going to go along and take care of the stock and stuff like that, and I was going to hunt the clients back there on mule deer and stuff. And so we went back in there, and it got really nasty, and it was snowing and raining and stuff like that. And we'd been in this camp, and so we was down pretty low at the time. And I told Nick, "Oh, I'll take the client. You can take your time, break up the camp, and come on up, and we'll go up to Cabin Lake, which is a nice, easy traveling, sway back trail." And so I took off with the client. And we're just taking our time. It's cold, but we're walking along real easy and staying nice and warm. We got just about to Cabin Lake, and here come Nick. And he rode up and he says, "I am freezing to death." And he's shaking in the saddle. And I told him, "Nick, why don't you get off the horse and walk?" He wouldn't do that. Yeah, I'd lose my dignity or something. So we built a great big fire for him and warmed him back up. But I remember one time he'd come in, he was packing an elk out. I would go and meet him someplace, and he'd come up, and then we'd go into the animals and we'd get it loaded, and then I'd walk behind him, and I remember one time his hat fell off going up this hill, and he's looking around at me like, "Get my hat, would you please?" And I ran up and got his hat and handed it to him. In fact, I wasn't going to go up the hill. Me and the client were going to hunt our way back around for some, whatever. We had elk killed, probably for deer and stuff like that, but that was Nick, and he, but I tell you, we would stay in that East Fork camp, and we'd be in the guide's tent, and Nick would get up in the middle of the night to go out and smoke a cigarette. I mean, it's ice cold, freezing, rifle season, and I could hear him out there, and then he'd get up in the morning, and there'd be a coffee cup there, and he'd knock the ice out of it and start drinking that coffee. I thought, Nick. I loved him though.
Nick was probably, to describe him to the people listening, 5'10", maybe 130 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's skinnier than a rail.
Yeah. Smoking, he would always brag that he only struck a lighter once a day. Whenever I first met him, he would, right after breakfast, we'd eat at the lodge there, and he would get his coffee, and he'd light up a cigarette, and then he'd light one cigarette off of that other cigarette all day.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And I always remember the bells. He had run a bell on his breast collar, and you could hear that stupid bell coming down through the woods, and that horse always, he'd have that bell, and him hacking and gagging and yelling at the horses. Like, he would just be like, "Feather up," and just cussing them the whole entire time, or yelling at the mules that he was pulling behind him. He'd be like, "Nick, we're going to be hunting soon," and he's just yelling at the stock.
He is a character.
We was packing out elk one time out of Canyon Creek, and I was going to go take him down, help him get down on the trail, and then me and the client was going to go back and hunt our way back around, and so he's going along there, and all of a sudden the mules got hung up, and they're hung up around this little tree, and they're fighting each other, and they're hee-hawing, and Nick's sitting in the saddle, and I'm looking at him. I said, finally I run down the hill, and I cut the lead rope. Boom, so everything got loose, And Nick just looks at me and he says, "Can you fix that?" And I said, "I can fix it." And he got him going. But Nick, he just never wanted to get out of the saddle. It just, he was a good packer, though.
Unbelievable horse guy.
Good packer. Yeah.
The quirkiest thing he would eat a peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, "Why would you eat mayonnaise on it?" And he's like, "So it helps the peanut butter slide down."
Yeah.
This is disgusting. And then, like you said, cold coffee, and he would always drink it out of whenever I knew him, a Big Slam Mountain Dew bottle. He would just pour it right into that Mountain Dew bottle, that big bottles, screw the lid on, and stuff it in a saddlebag, and just drink out of that thing all day long.
Oh, my gosh.
It made me think about cold coffee.
Did he tinker? So I have halters. And things that he would make in the winter. He would always tinker with little stuff in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Ships and bottles, and he would paint on the back of hides and a lot of Indian type of stuff. He's an interesting character.
He was, me and Nick were really, really, really close, and his daughter called me Uncle Speed. Of course, everybody's kids call me Uncle Speed, but I remember she called me when he was in the hospital. He couldn't hardly breathe, and I went there, and I remember holding on to him, and she leaned down to him, and he was having a hard time breathing, and she says, "Dad," she says, "I love you. You can quit now." And he quit breathing just like that. I'll never forget that.
And he passed away right after Jerry passed away. It was like within a week, wasn't it? Or
No, it was longer than that,
Was it?
but it wasn't that long away. Yeah. I said, I must be next. You know?
Things go in threes.
I used to ride with Nick. We would go take our checks to the bank, and then he would go see his wife, drive down the plains to see his wife on Sunday, and be back to the lodge. And that's where he lived all the time. He would just go see his wife a couple hours on Sunday.
No, she was a character too.
Is that the way it was whenever
Yeah.
he lived right at the lodge, dedicated to work?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's
I'm saying there's probably more to the story than that, but
yeah, but yeah, his wife, after he passed, was working down there at St. Regis. I would see her there now and then.
he has a son, Josh, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Katie.
It's been a long time ago, but I think he was wanting to go be a smoke jumper. This is like 05, 06.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've lost contact with all of them. I don't even know.
Yeah, after I went to the funeral, and when they did it at the gravesite and the funeral and the gravesite and all that stuff, and then after that, I've never gotten contact. What are you looking at me like I'm wrong?
No, you're never wrong.
Okay,
Was that the right answer?
that's the right answer. But yeah, Nick was a very important part of the outfit. I don't think he got the respect he should have myself.
Johnny on the spot. I mean, if you
Yeah.
needed
He'd do
anything,
anything.
there.
He'd do it.
He almost burned himself up in that trailer. And he woke up in the middle of the night, lit his cigarette, and woof, and there was some kind of propane thing or something.
Leak or something in
Yeah,
there.
burned himself, and he sat there for 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours, And I come in there, and he come out, and he told me, and I said, "What'd you go get Jerry up?" And so I went and knocked on the door, and Jerry, I said, "Nick got hurt," and Jerry, he thought Nick wouldn't go wake him up. I thought, Jamie, but I think I don't know,
Just the way he was.
the way he was, yeah, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was originally from Indiana, wasn't he?
yeah.
I think
When when you go into Paradise and you go coming from Missoula and you go across that bridge, that big hill up there on the right.
Yep.
Nick used to own that first house that was up there on that hill.
Wasn't that Henry Crick?
No, it's before Henry Creek.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's right after you go across that at Paradise.
Oh.
Yeah, and if you ever go across there again and look up that hill, straight across when you're going across the bridge, just look up on that big knob right there, and there you see a house up there and stuff. He's the first one that ever owned a house up there.
That was a pretty place to have a house, wasn't it?
Yeah, he sold that, and when he got married to his wife and moved down to, she had a trailer house and moved down to there
In Plains.
in Plains. Yeah,
The right side.
yeah.
So you and Jerry became outfitters, and then did you immediately start the guide school, or did you
No.
guide? Did Jerry ever guide before, or what made him want to be an outfitter?
Well, I don't know. It probably looked like a good financial move, to Jerry. And Jerry liked to do stuff which involved hunting or fishing or stuff like that. And he also had dreams of maybe being a fishing guide too, which that's one thing that he excelled at is fly fishing.
Yeah, he was a stud fly fisherman.
Yeah, and stuff like that. But I really don't know why he did start maybe I brought it up to him. I don't know, but I was thinking about doing it to do lion hunts. Because like I say, when I was working at the mill, I had 6 weeks paid vacation, and I could go out and go lion hunting and make money doing it,
Yeah.
But I I'm not much of a businessman. I'm more of the. I'd rather work for, yeah, even in building. I mean, I did a lot of building, but I just as soon have somebody else bid the hunts and bid the jobs and I do the work. And always.
Yeah,
Like
and that's why it worked well, because Jerry was the opposite. He could handle the paper things, and you could handle the in the woods.
Yeah,
This is Morgan and I.
And he liked the shows, and I didn't. And go to Moga, and he got me to go to Moga a couple times. I was that 1995? I was the Guide of the Year.
I think so.
Anyway, I became the
Really?
yeah, I got the award from Moga as the Guide of the Year, and so I had to go to the Moga meeting, and wear my hat and do all that stuff, But I went there and it was good. But what happened is we was in above Wilkes Creek, and both got hit by lightning. And I got knocked down the hill and
You and
knocked
the
him out.
client?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and knocked my client out completely. We were actually in shelters. We were in shelters, and we were all both laying in bed, and we got hit. And it knocked me completely out of there, and I rolled down the hill. I thought it blew my legs off.
Blew you out of the tent.
Yeah. Well, they were just in
Okay.
tarp shelters.
Yeah, you're a tarp tent.
Yeah, but you know how that works. And I went down the hill, and I thought it blew my legs off. I mean, it hurt. I mean, it just really hurt. And so I started crawling back, and I'm hollering at the client. And what's his name? Randy, I think.
Randy.
Yeah, it was Randy. And I hunted him like 15 times. And I'm crawling back there, and I get underneath the tarp, and I kept hollering at him, and I got my flashlight, and I looked down, and my legs were both there, and stuff. And I started getting numb, as that went out, and so I'm laying there. And I kept trying to figure out what am I going to do, and I'm knocked up. I mean, I'm just really exhausted now, when I'm laying there.
Adrenaline. Have you found Larry at this point?
And
Have you found Randy?
Randy.
No,
Yeah, sorry.
he's right ahead of me. We got two shelters back,
Yeah.
front to front. And finally, he says, "Speed." And I thought, well, he's alive. And I said, "Yeah, how you doing?" He said, "Man," he says,
I can't see.
"I can't see." And I said, "What?" He said, "I can't see." So I gets up and I goes around to him, and I looked, and his long johns was kind of melted on his chest right there. And his eyes, his face was just beet red, and he lost partial eyesight in one of his eyes, but that's why he couldn't see. And then all of a sudden he says, I turned the flashlight. Oh, I'm starting to see, Speed. I can see. He says, "What happened?" I said, "Well, I think we just got hit by lightning. Ground lightning. Came down on the ground there and hit us both. And it went in my shoulder and come out my calf down here." And because it had a big,
Do you have open wounds from it?
yeah, my leg, and my shoulder was all just bright red,
He was laying on his side, so the lightning come down this way and come out this calf
So
here.
when
It come out like a little star. It was a little round in the middle, and then it had feelers out, so it was about that big around.
That's wild how it does that.
And Randy was asleep on his stomach. So it came from the back of him and came out and melted his long john there.
Come out his chest.
And came through, which there's a lot of good stuff up there. You wouldn't want to, but most of it come back. He lost part of sight in his eye. When he got home, he was not married at this time. When he got home, then he started going to the eye doctor, and this pretty little girl was the receptionist, and
know where
he
this is
had
going.
to,
Go on.
yeah, and so he had to go there quite a few times, and so they ended up got married.
Yeah, I hunted him like about 10, 12 times too.
So you had to get hit by lightning for this guy to find his spouse.
Yeah,
That's,
that's what did it.
Yeah, he owned a great big
hog farm.
a couple, 2 or 3 granaries and raise hogs. And had the Mennonites raise the little hogs, and they could get their grain from him and stuff. Yeah, he's a really neat guy. I hunted him and he killed elk and stuff like that too. But he brought his wife out.
Yep.
And Sharon took her entertained her while we was hunting. So it was good. Yeah.
We went up to Libby in the fall. They have what they call an Oktoberfest, and parade and all the fun stuff and everything. So then we come back out and went across the swinging bridge and seen Kootenai Falls and a bear. And I had
showed him
never
more than the guides.
Huh?
You probably showed him more than the guides.
Probably. But we had a good time.
So
She was
were
really
you
nice.
helping out at the lodge also, cooking and? Nope.
I
You did for a while.
I did one season. I think I helped cook, and it was okay. But I was glad not to go back.
So anyway, I forgot where I was now.
You
got struck by lightning.
Oh yeah, I got struck by lightning,
And-
and they gave me the Guy of the Year award, and I went to before Moga, and they gave me a big belt buckle that says Guy of the Year award 1995 and stuff like that.
How did you get Randy out of the woods? How did that
Well-
whole process
well,
happen?
okay, I'll get
him
back
in.
to my story. Yeah, I was back there, and so I kept trying to call the lodge.
Yeah.
I'm up real high.
On the radio.
Yeah, but every time I go out like that, it'd be lightning going boom, boom. So I get back down there. So finally,
You're a little gun shy.
finally the rain let up. So I just built a great big fire. We had a big fire, and I got Randy over by it, and then asked me want some water, and he drank water, and we got
got
out
him
some granola bars, and we're eating granola
orange
bars,
juice.
and talking and doing all this different stuff. And so then finally I got hold of the lodge. And Kat's on it. I don't know if you knew Kat, but it's Jerry's daughter. But anyway, she comes on there and she says,
Mouthy one.
"Yeah, what's going on, Speed?" And I told her, I said, "Well, we both got hit by lightning last night." She said, "What?" I said, "We both got hit by lightning last night." Well, I'll get Jerry. And so Jerry comes on. "Well, what's going on?" And so he's going on like, well, it's like, so we go on. I said, "Jerry." I got on him on the phone. I said, "Look here, I tell you, we got hit by lightning. We got hit by lightning. We're going to take our day packs and we're heading out of the woods. We're staying up high, and you pick us up on that. When you come into Wilkes Creek, you got the upper trail. You come up there and you pick us up there. You got it?" "Oh, okay." And so he's still, like, "Boy, you'll be all right, and this and that."
You only got hit by lightning.
Yeah.
You should finish the hunt.
And so,
Yeah,
so
really.
me and him head out, and we're walking along, me and Randy, and we're going around. We stayed up on the high trail, and then we're going back like this. And this canyon's right below me, and I got my bugle in my hand, and I got his pack, and I got my pack, and he's walking along, and I just takes my bugle and go. I just screamed in that canyon, and this bull just cranks, and I mean he's right there. And I look at Randy, and I goes, Let's keep going. I thought I should have never done that. So anyway, we went in and we headed out, and we come out there, and Jerry and Nick are standing there, and we walks up, and Nick walks up and he says, "You guys smell like a burned out breaker box." Then Jerry started getting nervous. He seen he had. I don't know why Randy had sunglasses, but he had his sunglasses, and it helped him, because otherwise it was too bright for him. The sun was too bright because of his eye thing, And so we got in the rig, and you got in the rig, and then you could really smell it, and stuff like that. And so then Jerry got all nervous. Now he's running down to Dr. Lovell's, and Dr. Lovell getting us in and doing all these tests, and they're going and checking everything else, and Dr. Lovell says, "You don't need to take this hunter in the woods." And this is like on a Wednesday or a Thursday or something like that. Yeah, Thursday. It was Thursday when we walked out, and he says, "You don't need to take this client walking in the woods." So we rode hunted the rest of the time. But we got along good. He's killed animals with me and stuff like that too. And he come after that too. In fact, he hadn't even got married yet. He hadn't even got married yet. So we still buddies, So So it was good. So then Jerry put it in. Different outfitters put in different requests, and it come back that they were going to award me with the Guy of the Year award. So it was nice. I appreciated it. So.
Yeah, that's a pretty pristine award.
The Montana Silversmiths,
Yeah.
are they still working now?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
It's got a buckle that's about that big round. It's all silver. Pretty
Well,
cool.
like a rodeo
Yeah.
buckle, what's really weird about that is I don't remember where I was, but I was someplace, and I had that buckle on, and a gal walked by, and she backed up, and she says, "I made that buckle."
Really?
I said, "You did?" She said, "Yeah, I work at the silver place." She said, "I made that buckle." She said, "That's the first time I've made one and seen it."
That's just super neat.
Yeah. I think that was down in Bozeman or someplace. I can't remember where
I
it was.
think it is.
Yeah.
Bozeman.
So anyway,
Whatever.
So Jerry books all the clients.
yes.
How many times did you want to just strangle him for some of the people he booked?
Well, actually, for about 15 years, I had my same clients come back.
Oh, that's nice.
And so archery season, and so I didn't have to book any clients at all for me for archery. Now, rifle season, I could, he always wanted to give me these here ones that either were antagonistic or you had to road hunt them. And I hate road hunting. Driving along down the road, it just drives me nuts. And so but I'd do it, and stuff like that. I met it. Don't get me wrong. I had some clients I road hunted. I really enjoyed it. I had one guy, and he had been in the Army. He was a colonel. He shot 5,000 rounds a year, he told me, in competition. And I remember we was up in Thompson River, and he wanted to shoot a mule deer buck. And we drove them roads and stuff, and we could walk some roads, And we're on this one road, and this nice, really nice 4x5 mule deer buck is standing there broadside. And he's got a big Magnum rifle, 300 Winchester. No, it's bigger than that. Anyway, he had this big Magnum rifle. And he shoots this thing. And he said, "Where should I shoot him?" I said, "Shoot him in the lungs." He said, "Okay." Boom, and the buck just stood there. Them mule deer are tough, how they are, especially if you don't take a lot of bone out. And he says, "I can't believe that." And that buck takes about 3 steps, and he goes, "I'm going to shoot him in the heart." Boom! And the buck kind of does this. He says, "What's happening? I can't be missing." And that buck made one more step and fell down dead. We went over there, and he hit him both times.
Blowing right
He
through.
says, "Next year I'm bringing a bigger rifle."
Yeah, that's what you need.
So the next year he brings a 458 or whatever you call it, but a big monster gun. And this white-tailed buck, we're driving up this road and come around the corner, and this buck standing up the hill. He's up there about 20 yards. He gets out that 458, shoots, and that deer goes up in the air all 4 feet, and boom, hits the thing. He says, "That's the way I want him to go down." I never forget that guy. He was a ball to hunt, but he's awful big, and he couldn't walk very far. But he was a peach of a guy to be around. Military, and I was out of the Marine Corps too, and stuff, and so we got along real well. But I got a lot of clients, but Jerry always wanted me to take the ones that would be a pain, I guess, and stuff. And he kept putting me this one guy, and the guy first year he's one of these kind of hunters that just lucky. You could walk across the freeway, and the elk could come running up.
Game magnet.
And yeah, just. And the guy worked for Ford Motor Company or something in the computer section or something like that. He was an archery hunter. And so he shoots this bull. Arrow hits a tree, ricochets off the tree, hits elk, and the elk goes over dead. And so we take the bull out, and so he's going to come back the next year. He tipped me $20. No, he didn't tip me at all. So I think he wanted to give me a shirt or something. I told him, "Oh, I got enough shirts." And so anyway, he leaves, and I told Jerry, "I don't want to hunt that guy again." Well, Jerry come up the next year, and he says, "That guy's coming back." He says, "I'll talk to him about a tip, okay? And this and that and this and that." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll hunt him." So I took him up, and it was about the same scenario. Just I can't remember the exact how it happened, but he got his bull right away. And when he left, he tipped me $20, and I took the $20 and stuck it in his pocket and said, "Now you keep it. I don't need it." And walked off, and I walked right up to Jerry and I says, "Don't book him again for me." And he did not ever do that again. But anyway, it was the way it was.
You got to tell the story about you guiding 5 people.
Yeah. Actually, it was 6.
Actually, it was 6.
Yeah. Jerry says I got 6 hunters. I said, "Yeah, how many? Who's going to guide it?" He says, "You are." And I said, "Wait a minute. You know, these guys are all experienced hunters. All you got to do is take them up in the woods and put them all in different spots and show them how to get through and do this and that. That's all you got to figure out." And I says, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it. I'll give this a try, you know." So I gets right there, and I comes up on there, and I told this guy, "I want you to hunt down this ridge, and you go down this ridge, and when you come down to the creek, you're going to come to a trail. When you get to the trail, turn right. You follow that trail. It'll go quite a ways, and you'll come out to an old road. Stop right there." So then I go around the ridge and go down there, and the next client, I send this other client down. And pretty soon I send this other client down. And pretty soon I'm taking this other client down. And then the last client I take myself, and I come up there, and I hunt it down all the way around and come back down, and we come out there at the thing. 3 of the clients are there at the road, and I get there. So we're talking a minute. No, there was only 2 clients there, and I got there, and I told my client, I says, "I want you to head down the road, and you're going to come to a gate. When you get to the gate, you stay there, because that's where we're getting picked up." He says, "Okay," and just hunt your way real slow. Just, you know, I told him it's a couple of miles down there to out or more, you know, so just take your time. I said, "We'll wait about a half hour here, and I'll send another client or so like that." And I keep waiting on the rest of them, you know. Mm-hmm. So I'm waiting there, and all of a sudden I hear, boom, the first client shooting way down the road. And I told him, "Well, you can start hunting, and I'll take off down the road. You can take a hunting, and you stay here if you would until and then another one shows up, and then you can leave, and so on, and do the same thing." So I heads down to the thing, and I gets down, and he's standing on the road. So I get down there, and this guy's standing there, and he looks at me, and he says, "Yeah, I shot one," and he says, it's a bull. I said, "Oh, that's good, you know, it had to be a bull, you know." And that's just when we started with branched antlers. He says, "Are elk horns palmated out?" I said,
flag.
"What?" "Yeah, red flag right away." I said, "We better go look at this." Walk across that and walk up there, and there's this moose laying. I told him, "This is a moose." "What?" I said, "Yeah. It's a moose." So I called into the lodge right then, told them what happened, and they says, "Well, have the clients stay there, and go back and get the rest of the clients out." Well, I'm sending
5 other guys.
Nick up there. So I goes back up and I meet the other guys, and I coming out down the road. And I told, "You just keep going, you know." And I explained about a bull, you know, and so I get the last client, and I walk him out. By that time, here comes Nick, I think, and what we're supposed to do, and Jerry's out at the gate. Me and Nick are supposed to take this moose all apart, and we're supposed to pack it out. We're supposed to bring the horns out, and don't bring the cape out, but just bring the horns out, because they're going to destroy him, because at that time you couldn't save the horns. And so anyway, we're going to destroy him, but we had to bring all the meat out, so we had to pack it all out. So we get that all done. We get back to lodge late that night, and we go home. So next morning we go out. We do another hunt like that. And in the meantime, I get these pictures out. And, you know, this is an elk. This is a branch antlered elk. This is
These
mule
are the
deer.
experienced
This is white.
hunters.
Yeah, experienced hunter. So the last hunt, so we start up the trail, and so he goes up a ways, and then I send a guy off to the left side. I says, "You go on down here, take your time, hook around and come around and come around. And as long as you go downhill, you're going to come down to the road or the trail and take the trail down." Then I go up and do the next guy the other way. Then I go up like this. And then I got 2 clients left. I'm clear up there, almost up there to to where you come in the opening. And I sent this guy off to the left, and I told this other guy, me and you'll go around. We'll go into the canyon, drop up, and come back around. Just start in there, not 200 yards in here, boom. So I sends him off. Okay, you go ahead, just work your way down. Everything in the canyon will bring you to the road or the trail. So no problem. Okay. So I goes down there, and I had a signal. I can't remember what it was. And so I signaled this guy, and he signals me back. And so I'm going down there, and I walk up, and he says, I shot a bull elk. I said, well, yeah, good. And he says, yeah. He says, it's got forked. It's forked. I says, it's what? He says, it's got forked horns, which it did. It had forked horns on both sides, Didn't have any brow tines.
Oops.
I'm sitting here. I get down there. Are you kidding me? No brow tines, And so I call the lodge. And so Derek calls me back and says, the game warden says that take it all apart, bring the horns down out of it, and bring. So we did it. I took it all apart. And then I got down there, and then the next day, me and Nick had to go up there and pack it out with the horses for the fishing game. So I'm talking to that game warden. I forget his name. And I told him, man, I feel like an idiot. He says, don't feel like an idiot. You're hunting 6 guys. I don't know any outfitter to ever have you do that in the first place. You weren't responsible for all of them, So I couldn't believe it. I told Jerry, I went to the lodge, I am never hunting more than 2 hunters, ever. I never forget it.
That would have been wild to have that many hands. Just keeping track of that. I can't get that many guys gathered up to go to the shooting range at one time, let alone back to the truck before dark.
Well, I was trying to figure hunts where I could give them a hunt.
Yeah.
And still, and then so sometimes during the week I put them on stands, and then I put one guy in a stand, another guy in a stand, another guy in a stand, and then I'd hunt the other guy around. Then I'd come by and check with them at their stands, and then tell them to come on out to the road, and stuff like that, doing hunts like that. But, I organized it okay, but.
Did they know each other, or were they all
Oh,
strangers?
yeah, they're all friends.
Okay.
Yeah, they come out as a group.
Oh, I bet they were harassing their buddy after shooting the moose, and then a knucklehead shoots an illegal bull.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, he's just.
It was expensive.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I could not believe. And then the game warden charged him $50. Speaking of that windfall, I told you about that hunt you were talking about before, and we took 3 mule deer bucks on it.
Yep.
Well, one of the clients was a game warden. Every morning I would tell him, hey, have you got your hunting license? Have you got this? Have you got that? Have you got you make sure they had everything. Okay, make sure you have your hunting license stuff. We're up on Windfall Ridge. This guy shoots a mule deer buck, and then this other guy shoots a mule deer buck, and I send this game warden down, and he shoots. Now we decide this guy's shooting, so I got one on my back, and this other guy that was with me, and I can't remember who he was. I think he was an apprentice guide or something, and he had this one on his back. So now we're making our way down to this game warden. We get down there, and I takes mine off and everything. I says, we're going to leave these animals here, because then we're not going to pack these all out. And there's 2 guys. We don't want to make the clients pack out their deer, And we still got them, the switchbacks to get down before you hit the main creek, and then you got to go out and hit the roadway, and then you got to go down to the gate. So anyway, I said to this game warden, have you got your tag? And he says, well, I was going to tell you that I left my hunting license and my tag at the lodge. I said, you did what? He says, yeah. He says, can't we just go get it? And I says, tell me something. He's the one that's harassed me about hound hunting to start off with, Oh, them guys back where I come from in Virginia, them hound hunters, you gotta, they get their dogs all piled up and they run these bears and stop people on the roads, and he didn't like houndmen, and more or less, I goes, okay, and now if he was in Virginia or wherever he was from, I forget now, but I think someplace like that. And I says, and somebody forgot their hunting license, what would you do? Well, I would probably ask, say, the situation. And, and you start going on there. I says, you know what we're going to do? He says, what? We're going to call a game warden. You can talk to him since you're a game warden, and he'll tell you what you can do. I said, I'm taking this animal apart right here. We're leaving it here. So we called down to the lodge, and Jerry called back and says, okay, come on out. Nick will come up and get the animals in the morning. He says, but the game warden wants the client to go in there with him to put the tags on the animal, and he gave him a fine too. So anyway, I never forget that. Huh?
A little lesson learning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So did you guys have radio, like when you would kill something, did you guys come up with this radio scheme like a 10-10 to 10-8? Did you come up with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could you go into that a little bit? It was because the other outfits in the area, you're not wanting anybody to know what was going on, correct? With this,
Right. Well, we just didn't want the general public because everybody can listen to them radios if they got a scanner, and so we would say, well, what's going on? Well, we got a 10-9 or whatever it was. In other words, that was an elk, or we got a 10-6 or something like this, and they always knew what drainages we were in. So we say we're in the upper part of the drainage or the lower part of the drainage and stuff like that. And we'll be coming out, and we'll flag our way out or whatever like that. So, yeah, we always use that.
So the first elk that I killed with a client, I got all wound up, and whenever I radioed back to the lodge, I told him I killed a 10-10, which is a grizzly bear. And so Nick answers the radio, and he's like, I'm getting Jerry. Well, Jerry gets on the radio, and he's like, is that confirmed at 10-10? I'm like, I'm looking at it. He's like, I'm sending Nick in to get you guys. I'm like, man. I get off the radio, and I look back to clients. I was like, you think they'd have been a little more happy I killed my first elk? They seemed all mad at me. Nick comes riding in about 3 hours later, and he's like, Jerry's so mad. They're at the game warden. They'll be calling everything in when we get back. I'm like, for what?
Yeah.
They're like, you said you shot a grizzly bear. I was like, we didn't shoot no grizzly bear. We shot an elk, man. And I caused this whole big thing. I had the lodge so wound up, they were calling everybody. And
Oh, no.
Yep, all because I said the wrong number.
And then we was doing guide school a lot like that, and the thing was progressing. And then Jerry wanted me to start going to shows. And I really liked the winter off because I could go hunt my dogs and draw unemployment. Mm-hmm. So I went to shows for a couple of years, and that didn't work out too well either. So
Every time he come home, he was sick.
Oh, yeah.
Shaking everybody's hand.
Yeah, we every time we come home, we get sick just because you meet so many people and shaking their hand, and it's in the middle of the winter.
I'll bet you book so many clients, though, just being honest with them and telling the hunt, like, because it doesn't take very long when someone's telling a story. You can tell whether they have been there and know what's going on.
Or not.
And clients, I'm brutally honest to them at them sports shows, and it books more people just telling them the truth than feeding them all that BS. And I bet that you were like a beaming light to you telling hunting stories, I'm sure.
Yeah, actually, I did a lot of the guide school booth too.
Okay.
And I did the guys, and I was truthful in that. Just one kid could come up to me, and he had purple hair or something like that, and and he had earrings everywhere, in his lip and stuff like that. He says, I'd really like to be a guide. And I said, well, first of all, you're going to have to change your appearance. And he just looked at me. I said, I guarantee you there's not an outfitter in the United States who would hire you. So you're going to have to change your whole outlook, buddy. So he walked off. Well, he's talking about being truthful. Yeah. I was truthful, that's what it is, too. But, But I went to the shows, and I was on salary, And when I went to the shows, I felt like I was working 24/7. Mm-hmm. And I was gone for like 10 days or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we went to this show. I probably shouldn't tell this one anyway. And we go on the show. And so June hands me $150 cash. And maybe it was $100. I don't know. Somewhere around that anyway. and the other guy that was going, I think it was Aaron then, and so we went and we was gone. And we went to 2 different shows, Cincinnati, Ohio, and then we went down to Charleston, West Virginia, and so we was gone for a couple weeks, and so then we got home, and so the check come and my salary check, and they took off that $100. I went and blew my stack. You got to be kidding me. I go and I'm doing 24/7 and out here working for you people and stuff like this. And you're going to charge me for that $100 you gave me so I could have a sandwich or a soda or a coffee while I'm doing my job. And so the next time we went, I told them, if that keeps up, I'm not going again. Well, we went the next year, and they handed me some money, and nobody said anything. But that, I mean, I couldn't believe it. But, some people in that outfit were pretty tight.
Oh, yeah.
And so I didn't like that very well. But I got over that tough, too. But it was what it was at the time. I like going to the shows. It was interesting, but like she said, you come back, you're sick and stuff like that. We're in a hidden environment here.
Yeah.
And then you go there and you got all these different people and they're breathing on you and shaking hands. You're eating out of restaurants and you're not doing that at home, and it's just unhealthy, and so.
The town driving. I would have liked to have been in the truck, watched you and Jerry drive through town.
Yeah.
We went to Cincinnati, Ohio, and June was doing the setting up. And I'm not racial, but we were right in the middle of racial town. And, I mean, it was unbelievable. I told Jerry, let's get our own motels from now on. And then Jerry get lost, and you're driving down the streets, and you're looking around, and these girls are standing on the street corners, and you're saying, where are we at right now? It's getting dark. You know what happens here, and when it gets dark. So anyway.
No, well, it hasn't changed much from then. But so, do you remember? I think next podcast we should go into you teaching guide school and all the characters that probably went through their learning. But do you remember any specific clients or stories?
Oh yeah, I got stories for guide school students for sure, and I actually love guide school. I loved doing it, and I loved archery hunting. My biggest downfall was probably that I would struggle was rifle hunts, and then the second one was hunting lion hunters because it's 24/7 in the cab of the truck with you too, and it's really hard to get away. In the woods, you go shh. You gotta be quiet,
Yeah.
You know about that.
And don't get me wrong, it's just, and it's real interesting. I met some great, very interesting people, and I'm glad that I had being able to do that. And I will say one thing that for the first 15 years or so when I had that big run with the same clients, that I think all of them were saved when it was all over but one.
Was that a big part of you being into this industry, is being able to touch that many lives?
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
I know it is for me a lot.
Yeah. I
It's a
think
good
so.
thing.
And I mean it's a heck of a ministry, and it's a great. And I tell you something else. Even in guide school, when I was teaching guide school, we was praying every time we ate. And we sit around the campfire, and I'd be talking about elk bugling and stuff because we'd go up on hikes and stuff like that and stay overnight. And I'd talk about Jesus, that's what I did, And I have several did different Billy Moles and yourself to be exact, and then that friend of I had a guy that I think he passed now, and he was a character, but he used to write me almost every other year.
Mark.
Yeah,
Mark.
yeah. he was a neat guy, but it just so I had a lot of good experiences that way.
Yeah. So Billy, speaking of Billy Moles, he went on to a amazing outfitting career in Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still
Yeah.
still at it.
Still
Yeah.
at it. And he does a lot of inspirational talking and
Yes,
things like that now.
he did. Yeah.
YouTube. I think he's on the hunting channel also, isn't he?
Yeah.
Mountain Man. What is it called?
Modern day mountain
Modern
man.
Day Mountain Man. There it is. Yeah.
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 You run a special on that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
two of them actually. Yeah, a fire
Fireside.
side chat with Speed, and then there's another one that I talk on too. I can't remember the name of that one, but I got almost all his DVDs. He sends them to me all the time, and he's it's a neat deal. I think when you get out of the hustle and the bustle of the city, and you get in the mountains, I can remember sitting up on the hillside when I was in the evenings by myself on a big rock and looking across Thompson River thing. There's a special place up there I used to love to go on. And I'd be sitting on that rock and it just like God got so close to me. And it's when you're by nature and stuff like that, everything in the woods reaches out to God. All the plants go reaching out. You get a tree comes out of a bank, it turns and it goes back. It's reaching to God. Everything talks. I'm created. I didn't just blow up because one molecule hit another molecule. I'm created, and I think that's really important.
And I think the mountains are very important also. You can look through the Bible, and I don't know how many times offhand men were called to the mountains to be drawn close to God. Moses, Abraham, like they went to the mountain to seek God. And it's because there's so much of his wonder in it. I mean, you have to be a blind man not to be able to see his creation in the mountains.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, too, that way, if you're in your garden, gardening, and you're in the soil and stuff, it's special.
Mm-hmm.
Because God's right there.
Yeah.
Seeing everything grow, especially the spring.
In the spring.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Spring is a new creation. I gave a lesson on that. Everything's new life, new change. That's what Christians happen to Christians.
Yeah.
That's new life, new change. It's what it is. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even when clients come from all over the place, whether they're a believer or not, a lot of our guides here, at least half of them, use that as an opportunity to talk about God.
That's cool.
And no one ever says they feel uncomfortable or anything because it's kind of hard to when you're sitting up there looking at all of it.
All the creation.
And you're like, oh, they can't say anything.
Yeah.
They just sit there like, I believe
that.
you now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think just in this whole industry, especially probably here in Montana where it's beautiful and like they call it God's country, it's really easy to minister to people.
Yeah.
Because you also, like you said, you have a lot of time with them to talk
Right.
about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we get these clients, we all seen this, but they come there, and they're all wound up. And they got off the plane, and they're still thinking about the job, and they got this $1 million job, and they're going like this, and they're going like that, and they're all wound up, And then about Wednesday, you start noticing they start getting back, and they're starting to relax a little bit, And Thursday, man, they're just having, this is really, they're really relaxed. And Friday, and then Saturday comes around, and then all of a sudden they start thinking about, I got to go back to that crazy place, and I got to go back to the job. And you can see them going crazy, but there's a time of peace there for them, and a time of ready to talk about God.
Yeah.
Because they come off that high of the world, and all of a sudden they realize how beautiful the world is, not just to do
Creation.
with keep making money or doing this or doing that, and the creation. It's beautiful.
It was a therapy session.
Yeah.
You canceled out the rest of the world for a week.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you got them to focus on one solid thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Years ago, I went up on the Idaho line. I used to go up there, and so I come down there, and there's snow everywhere. And me and this
That's
client,
Jackson Creek.
big old boy, we come up on this open knob. It's just getting daylight, and so I tell him we'll wait here a little bit. And when you look down through there, you had this snow. You could just barely see the reservoir down there, and everything was turning purple and
I know
red
the exact
and
spot
stuff,
you're talking
and
about.
beautiful, beautiful. And I turned around, this guy's crying, tears just rolling down his face. He walks up and he hugs me. He says, "You don't even have to show me an animal." He says, "This is worth every penny what you just showed me." And I just love clients like that. I mean,
Yep.
that's what he's there for. He's for the experience. It didn't have to really. I mean, it's nice to get an animal. That's the whole idea. But he come for the adventure, and that's what it is.
That's what we've been trying to sell our hunts on, is an adventure, because
Yeah.
it's very hard hunting, and not everybody's going to have the
Right.
success of killing something.
Yeah.
But they can take a success of being able to climb that mountain, go a little bit
Exactly.
farther. Don't
Yep.
give up. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Things
Don't
like
give
that.
up. Yeah.
And I've had older clients that, we start climbing, and it's really called client leadership, which I taught in guide school. But it's being able to move that client, keep going, watching his health issues and the same thing. And all of a sudden we get on top of this mountain, and then clients look at you and say, "I would have never thought I could have got up here." And that's so important. I really appreciate you, how you took care of me and worked me all the way on top of this mountain. You didn't yell at me. You didn't get sarcastic with me. You didn't nothing. But you worked me all the way to the top of this mountain. And that's important. That's called client leadership. Yeah. And that's something that a lot of guys don't have, and that's what they need. You got to be able to read your client's breathing. You got to be able to read this. You got to be able to read that and stuff like that. But you're there to give them a great day. You're also there to make sure that they're safe. Now, they're there for an elk, but these other issues are priority over all that. And, I mean, really, that's what it's about. Giving them a great, as you say, a great adventure.
Yep.
And that's what it's about. You go out and shoot an elk the first day, the adventure's gone.
Done.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what the meat hunters do.
Got it.
We go out and shoot an elk the first day, and then we go do something else,
Go run the dogs.
Yeah, we'll run the dogs. Then we got the adventure and run the dog, So anyway.
I think
Yeah.
that probably is a good place to end that, because we're an hour and a half in.
Yeah, I want to go into the guide school big time, because I want to tell you I would have did anything for you to been way more into the guide school whenever I was there than.
Okay.
And I would like to tell you how it went downhill whenever I went there compared to when you were teaching it.
Okay.
Yes. So we'll do that next time. I think that would be good. Plus, I'm sure you had some knuckleheads in there. I know just what I have to deal with, and we have like one apprentice every 2 years. And, they're young. So I'm sure you have stories about that. So I think we
Yep.
should be done
Okay.
with this now, and then we'll
Thank
be
you.
back.
Okay.
All right.
We're
Thanks,
out.
everyone.
Thank you.